I wanted to get into the world of gaming and virtual realities. This is the series, The Digital Age. This is an investigation into the human and technology integration series that I've been working on. This is one of my passion projects from this year. I am so excited to investigate and deliver this information to you. Pretty soon, once I get to where it feels a little bit complete, I still need to talk about the cryptocurrencies, the work life, the career and work life, and there's probably a couple other areas that I'll touch on, but I do want to deliver this information to you as clearly and cleanly as possible. And the way that I can do that is just these long form discussions. So let's talk gaming. Gaming came out. You had Pong, digital gaming, anyways. And it wasn't really digital, it was just on a screen. We had Pong, and then we had gaming consoles like Atari and Nintendo Entertainment Systems, Sega Entertainment Systems, and then we had PlayStation. So we have a whole world of console games which turned into computer games once the personal computer was available at home. And we talked about that in the early 90s. The internet was just being rolled out, so it was a novelty item to have in your home. They were pretty expensive, so it was a kind of a slow rollout depending on the financial availability that anybody had back in those times. So it took a little while for the internet to kind of get integrated into our everyday life. And now we can't even imagine life without the internet. It's very, very difficult to be able to do any transactions, any communication, or any commerce without going on the internet. So when I looked at gaming, I knew that this is going to be a big topic. Hi, Gobi. I knew that this was going to be a big topic. So when I started thinking about, what is the game? Hi, Thomas. Thank you. Thanks for the compliment. You're beautiful. Thank you for being here. um, don't forget to subscribe, please. Hi, Shanda. All right. So let's talk a little bit about gaming. RJ the Goat family, Drac Production, welcome. I'm doing good. It's a little late here, but I'm Pacific time, so I'm good. We're talking about video gaming. So the let's talk about the genesis of how it went from console to computer and then to this online integration. One of the first things that popped into my head wasn't Sims, to be honest. It was actually Second Life. Do you guys remember Second Life? Harry, or will someone in the chat? Hello, it's your girl. I love your text. Your font is beautiful. Hi, RJ and the Goat family. Julian, good to see you. Thank you. Yeah. It sounds like RJ and the Goat family said yes. Remember Second Life. So I remember Second Life. It was so. Thank you very much. Thank you for the compliments. Um, so The Sims came out in 2000. Well, there was like some Sim games. I remember playing Sim Ant. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember that. But we had Sim Ant, and then we had Sim City on the Nintendo, Super Nintendo's console. And so that once that got into this computer version, it turned into The Sims, and that was in in the year 2000. So The Sims was created by Will Wright, and it was launched on EA. So a lot of us remember EA. I think it's still around. Or maybe you might have known it as Maxis. I only play Mario. It made me happy when I joined. I love that. It's your girl. Love that. Yeah. You used Nintendo's. Yes, I know. Everyone hit the like button. Drush is in. Thank you. So the game comes out, The Sims. It's a single player life simulator. So we have these life simulators, and in The Sims, you're building homes, you're forming relationships with other characters within the game, you're growing families. It really is the beginning of a true NPC. It's not like somebody, like if you're playing Zelda, you can just walk up to somebody and talk to them, and that's an NPC. That's more of just, the stationary person. Maybe they walk back and forth and, whatever. But in the Sims game, I never played it, by the way. Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, California, Colorado, and Delaware, Massachusetts. That's all I know. Oh, in America? I am in Oregon. So you're really like having this life simulated on a computer console, right? In the computer world. And what this is focusing on is this microcosmic human behavior. So you're able to communicate and make people do things. And there is some AI routines. There's emotion, there's interaction, and there's ambition. It's almost like playing the board game Life, The Sims. It's like the board game Life. And so you're having all this interaction, and you get to choose all of the decisions that are made for all of the characters. So there's this really deep psychological connection that you're making with these people that you're kind of controlling in this video game, and you can control every single one of them. By the way, I've never played Sims, but I've watched people in real time play Sims and like broadcast it, so we were able to watch them, and we all got our own avatars created, and so I have integrated in it. I don't remember which Sims. I think it might have been 3 or 4, but so you're basically in God mode of this domestic environment. You're creating these little worlds, and so you're basically doing chores. You're cleaning dishes. You're taking care of children. You're interacting with people. You're looking at who you're going to get married to, and you're like trying to get those the little love things up so that they might ask you to marry them. And there's a whole little ritual that goes into that as well. So that came out. I never really played it. It wasn't my thing. I was 16 in the year 2000. So, but I do remember in the year 2003, Second Life came out, and when I heard about Second Life, I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Oh, hi, Deborah. Um, Wait, what are you asking? It made me happy when I joined. Please. Okay. So Second Life came out, and I remember when Second Life came out because I was like, wait, people are really doing things that you would normally do in this world, and they're doing it in a computer game. And so I thought it was really silly. I don't know of anybody that I know personally that played Second Life. I've never played it, but I just remember having this reaction to, I'm what, 19 years old. I'm like, people are playing a game that you're literally doing the same things that you would do in your human world in this other world. Uh, it was mind blowing to me. So this one is a Linden Lab creation, and it was a fully online open world metaverse. So this is like one of those first metaverses, meaning that it's not just you, the player, that's playing it. It's you, the player, plus this extension out into the internet world where you're connecting and you're interacting with other users. So it's not necessarily a game in the traditional sense. There's no scores, there's no end goal. It's just this open sandbox of you being able to interact with the world, or the metaverse, this open world metaverse. And we'll talk about some of the progressions as that's gone on. But in this second life, you can own property, you can attend classes, you can run businesses, get married, and even become somebody entirely new. So your second life and your own life are two different identities. You're creating this avatar in this new world. Did you buy the Nintendo Switch too? No, my son told me to wait. We're still on Nintendo Switch, but and this is no this is I'm not against like playing video games. I play I wouldn't say a moderate amount. It's a little under a moderate amount of video games. I have a almost 13-year-old son, and so we sit and we'll play games together. Mostly Minecraft, but we also play like Stardew Valley. We'll play Zelda on the Switch. And sometimes when we're feeling really silly, we'll go and play like Game Boy games or even Nintendo, the Super Nintendo or the 64. It's all like available streaming online, which is, a whole nother world that we didn't grow up with. So the main point of the second life is that you're able to perform all of these different things that you would normally be able to perform in real life, but you're able to perform them in this metaverse. And this second life, I think the thing that shocked me the most is that, you're not even living in your current identity. You're like escaping into this other identity in a whole nother world, essentially. And that is important when it comes to the things that I talk about on my digital age series here. The other thing is it's measuring this community economy. So it's it's it was revolutionary in this idea that you can rebuild your reality from a code. Like you can rebuild your avatar, your identity. You're literally buying property, and this is like this slow leap into what virtual reality is now and to what online gaming is now. So, in the chronological sense, we're looking at The Sims that came out in 2000, then we're looking at Second Life, which expanded that Sims idea in 2003. So, it's like this 2 years of development, and then really like, here's your Second Life, go and do it. So The Sims was a sandbox simulation of the individual's interior life, meaning that it's just this little, this little world that you're controlling. But Second Life is sharing this realm of different avatars, different users that are projecting their new selves into this open, persistent world of community. And I don't know all the games. I know Fortnite is a huge one right now that I think I see on Reels where they're like the avatars. People are so consumed by their avatar identity online that they don't even like people taking pictures of it. Like they treat it like it's their own self, or maybe even better than their own self. So The Sims taught us how to manage a simulated soul, and Second Life taught us how that we could broadcast it, that we could send it out and have these connections with other users that are in different countries and different states and cities and all of that stuff. So why does this matter? Why am I even bringing this up? I'm bringing this up because this is the beginning stages of this digital identity. Now there have been other games that are board games, or even what comes to mind. I think about Dungeons and Dragons, where you create your own avatar in this Dungeons and Dragons environment, and then everyone sits around and they all, communicate. You've got a dungeon master, and then you've got all these other people that have created their own avatars in this world that they're generating in an analog perspective. But once we move it into this digital perspective, there's a little bit of, it hits your brain a little bit differently. So, this matters in the evolution of the digital age because selfhood becomes editable. Like, you can go from a fixed identity into this modifiable avatar. I mean, I remember when Cyberpunk 2070, I think that's the name of it, came out a few years ago, and I had a friend. He was so excited that it was coming, like months up. He was just reminding us, "Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for Cyberpunk 2070 to come out." And then like it came out, and he was streaming it on Twitch, and we were watching, and I'm just seeing like you have these sliders that it changes the avatar to whatever you want, and even more so, like you can have an alien looking avatar. You can have green skin or purple skin, and there's other games that did that too. I think like is it Elder Scrolls and Morrowind. I remember playing Morrowind, but I think it was Elder Scrolls. It was like, it was really, compared to today's standards, it's a little bit different, but you have this modifiable avatar. And so it really began this digital shift into what we know as the new gaming realm today. So these are early adopters, kind of setting the foundation, setting the groundwork. The next thing is there's a little bit of agency transfer. So you're looking at becoming a god basically in these worlds, or a ghost in somebody else's machine. And this Second Life especially is when the idea of digital capital began. So you have in the Second Life, it almost normalized this idea of having real estate sales, currency exchange, and then social clout in this virtual reality, this virtual realm. And then finally, another just thing that emerged were these spiritual themes: rebirth, omniscience, immortality, control of time, and then grief can even be experienced in that in-game Second Life. That kind of, it grew and blossomed. So Sims is kind of this simulated control where you're controlling the video game. You're assuming this identity, or even playing all the identities, and like everybody has a personality and you get really ingrained in it. I know people that that's their dedication. They absolutely love playing their Sims. They'll go and spend a bunch of money on the outfits or the items that you can purchase in the house. Like there's a lot of purchases that go into that as well. Now, Second Life is almost this digital reinvention where it's more cathedral like. And these both opened the door. Like I said, it's laying a foundation to this metaverse that we now have at our fingertips. We're experiencing the metaverse on a big scale. It also introduced this virtual reality embodiment, meaning that the avatars in the virtual reality that we're experiencing as them, you almost become emotionally connected. You become mentally connected. Like that is the draw. You are almost, it's almost an extension of you as a person. And then the final thing, and the thing that I like to bring up in the digital age, because it is something that is so important to really recognize, is that there's this analog breakdown of your own selfhood. So the analog breakdown, meaning that instead of, living your life and doing all these things, I'll talk about Minecraft in a second and why that matters to me. It's almost robbing you of that analog thing. So instead of being in your life, experiencing your family, experiencing your friends, having a social life, it's so easy to just kind of, I'm going to come home and plug right into my virtual reality or my virtual realm because it's an extension of my own selfhood. Like I have an analog, and then I have this digital selfhood that I want to experience as well. All right. So, as I said, I'm not against gaming. I do it. It's not even a moderate amount. It's a very minimal amount compared to the hours of the day that I do other things. I'm constantly reading, constantly researching, and learning things because that's just how my brain works. I'm a very analytical person. But one of the things that I did notice, and Minecraft did not come out until 2009, but it's still one of the most popular games in the world. I don't think it's like number one, but it's definitely up there. And one of the things that I noticed, so I was hesitant to play Minecraft. I told my son I don't have time for it. I don't have time for it. And I think he was like 10 years old, and he's like, Mom, I'm teaching you how to play Minecraft today. I want you to play Minecraft with me. Okay, fine. And as soon as I got into the game, I was totally taken by it. And I spent many, many hours playing Minecraft. And the thing about these open sandbox games is that we have this innate desire to create, to build, to adventure. And I could see how having this open sandbox digital realm was actually satisfying an analog desire that I had for adventure. It was satisfying this analog desire that I have for farming, it for building, for creating. And so it's almost like the video game itself, Minecraft, was farming me, farming my inner desires. And I think it's really funny, or maybe just kind of maybe a little iconic, that in the Minecraft movie, one of the famous lines that the Jack Black, who plays Steve character, is, as a child, I yearned for the mines. And, this game, you go in, and like going into the mines is a requirement. You've got to get coal, you've got to get wood, you've got to go get iron and, eventually diamonds. And if you're really good, you're going and getting some ancient debris so that you can make, I can't remember what ancient debris makes, but so that you're like basically able to advance and become a stronger player in this realm. So that's one of the things that I did see. And that's one of the things that when I heard about Second Life, I'm like, why are people putting all this energy into this like virtual life? Like, wouldn't you want to spend your energy on your own life doing that instead of like farming your energy out to this video game where you're not even really getting real return from it? Whereas, like, if I was actually farming in my home, having a little garden, at least I can go out and pick the vegetables and maybe the fruit, whatever I'm growing. I'm actually getting something from that activity instead of in the game where, like, your character gets to survive. And yeah, it's kind of fun, but how much time are you dedicating? How much energy are you dedicating to that? Okay, so those are the first two games that really started it. The other significant games is World of Warcraft, or WoW as many people call it. Now this was even more revolutionary, and we're talking 2000 Sims, 2003 Second Life, and then World of Warcraft. And I think the popularity of that game was just boom. It was wild and crazy. Like, it was high there was a lot of attention that went into that. So this is known as a MMORPG game. So this is known as massively multiplayer online role playing game. So RPG is role playing game. So think like playing Zelda or even, you know, I think Zelda is probably a really good one. To some extent, Mario. To some extent, some of these other games. But World of Warcraft is definitely this huge game that just it literally wowed the world. It's funny that it's called WoW. It really wowed the world. Like a lot of people still are fondly tied to that time. And you have to imagine in this time period, the internet had only been out for about 13 years, so it's getting pretty advanced. A lot of people are, learning Microsoft so that they can go work their administrative jobs and be in the like be technically savvy in the business world, or even in, these other industries. I don't want to just relate it down to business, but anything commercial, anything health related, that kind of stuff. And World of Warcraft, I never played it, but it is tied to this role guide and reputation. So all of these things, you're putting so much energy into it. And here, there's rituals, there's hierarchies, and mythic quest lines that you get to go and fulfill. So it does mirror a little bit of this spiritual and tribal framework that we're normally used to in our everyday life, that things that we do yearn for. The video game world, especially this online gaming world where you're connected to everybody, your tribal framework. So you're working together with other people, and you're creating these groups so that you can survive. And it sounds like a very tribal tribal game, and I'm not no stranger to tribal frameworks. But you're looking at this digital tribalism, and on this very deep human scale, we want to be connected to others that are like us. And then the other thing that is going on here is this avatar ego or identity that's also going on with it. So you're inflating your ego by, maybe in this life you appear a certain way to people, but when you're in the gaming world, you're able to balloon that up. You're able to inflate it to be this bigger sense of self and this new identity. So you have that. And then there's a loyalty to the realm. So it's really farming this interesting piece that is a little deep, when it comes down to, the mythic and spiritual connection that you're having with the video game. So you're not just playing, you actually can identify. Like, I say this all the time, but I'm just going to say it for this stream so that you guys can commit it to memory. Our brains do not know if something is real or if it's like perceived. Like, our brains have simple neurons that fire just the same way if something was real or perceived. So if you have a real fear, like a bear is attacking you, or you have a perceived fear that if I if my ex or if my boyfriend sees me eating a ding dong, he's going to like judge me. I'm going to get in trouble. And so I'm afraid of him seeing me eating any like snacks or anything like that. So I'm not going to do that. There's a real fear. Like, your brain is going to process both of those things as a threat to your system. So when you're in these worlds, you're actually becoming somebody else, that identity is not going to, like, that identity that you have in that world is going to be just as real as if you were in your own analog body. Okay. Another one that is pretty big is Roblox. Now, Roblox came out in 2006, and then Minecraft came out in 2009, as I had mentioned. These are player generated worlds. So, Roblox and Minecraft are a little similar, there's a little bit of difference, but they're player generated worlds. So, you spawn as a player and then you go and you can interact. Now, you can do this alone or you can connect to the internet and you can play with other characters as long as they're in that server. So if you're in Minecraft, you can connect to online server worlds and play with other characters from around the world. Same thing with Roblox. It's this player generated world and you can interact. So this is where children and teens learn to kind of code, create, and socialize in this digital sphere. Um, when my son got his first gaming console that was able to go online, I restricted it. And even still, like, because he hasn't done that much, he's just disinterested in playing on other servers, playing with other people in the digital world. And I'm okay with that. I, I know that Roblox does have some questionable things that are going on. I think there's a few class action lawsuits and some maybe not so good things revolving children or teens. But this is still another sphere where they're learning how to socialize digitally. And if you've ever watched anybody play Minecraft, you can kind of get a general sense of what's going on. Um, so once again, these three games, the World of Warcraft, Roblox, and Minecraft, these are all like connecting the metaverse even more. And if you were early on in these games engaging in the metaverse in this way, and when I say metaverse, I mean that you're able, so meta is like kind of this aggregate of everybody is available to go into whatever it is. Or maybe it's like metadata, which is like all the data. Maybe it's anything meta, it means like everything is included. So a meta analysis is like this overarching all the data, let's compile it and figure out what's going on. So these games birth these generations of metaverse native creators. Now, the digital architecture of this is, hi, Mike. I don't know if you're still here. The digital architecture is this new literacy that people have. If you don't know the digital architecture, you're not engaging in this literacy. Sorry, my ears popped. But with Roblox and with Minecraft, they're not just playing a game. Like, they are the architect of the game. So the world does generate, and it generates somewhat semi-randomly. And it generates based on, if you're playing the Java edition or the Bedrock edition. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Aren't you on the East Coast? It's like really late. So the world generation, like, you basically can like re-terraform everything. And people do, they make some really magnificent pieces. But again, when I'm saying this, you are kind of being farmed when you're playing these games. And maybe we didn't know it so much when we had the consoles, but we do know it now where we are like integrating into these really big, vast sandbox worlds. Um, let's see. So in 2014, we have our first VR headset, VR chat. So this is real time avatar embodiment with VR headsets. And users could inhabit personas with these. They're complete with voices and gestures and even virtual intimacy. And many experience this gender euphoria or this dissociation or even altered states in these spaces. So VR chat was like the psychic projection of a simulated ether. Um, so that's early on. When I was talking about um, like our attention and what we could focus on, we have a finite focus of attention of the things that we can actually pay attention to. But then our minds are also processing the external environment, like the environment around us. And it's constantly monitoring that and it's bringing in stimuli. So if you're in a new space, your focus of attention might not be, if you're driving a car, your focus of attention, if you're going to a new place, might not be like in your mind and wherever. It's probably looking out on the road and like looking around you and kind of seeing landmarks and everything is new, so you're kind of like mentally mapping this new area. But the more you get used to that same path, pretty soon you can kind of be on autopilot where you're more in your mind and less kind of you're still in the periphery of attention when you're driving, but autopilot is more you're able to be just internally focused. You're kind of just going through the motions because you've done it so many times before. So when the virtual reality came into the the gaming space or just even in the technology space, um, I think we may not have realized, or maybe there was like warnings. I never had early VR. We have VR. I think we have the Oculus. We have used it very seldom. In fact, I don't think we've touched it for over a year. And there was only like one game we were playing. And the thing that I noticed as I'm playing is like even in the metaverse games like Minecraft, the thing that I notice is that not only is my attention competing for attention, like is it paying attention, focusing attention on the things I'm thinking about in my mind, or is it paying attention to the physical stimulation, the stimuli around me? But now we're introducing this other environment, this digital environment, and that's vying for, like, you've now split it. So before it's like analog, you're dealing with one like internal world and external world, and now you're splitting that into this digital world. So now you have this kind of trifecta of different different environments, different worlds that your mind is competing for. What am I going to pay attention to? So the early people that are using this are almost they almost dealt with like this digital spiritual possession. So think of it as like a spiritual possession, but in a digital sense. And then, as we're looking at what is attention, and this is a bit scientific basics, is that your mind is now competing. Now, let's say that you have Minecraft and that's your whole world. But then let's add other things into it. When you go to work, you have all these systems that you have to integrate. So that's another digital system that once you're in front of it, now it's competing with that. And then let's add social media into that. Now your mind is competing with that. You have to plug into these different social medias that all have their own unique blueprint of how to interact with it. Even the internet can be considered that. ChatGPT or any other generative AI like that, that's another place for you to plug in. So you can start to see where these mental splits and really this digital overload can happen. And I am going to now call it the digital nervous system fatigue, because that's literally what it is. You're fatiguing your analog system by by expanding your attention to and focus into all of these other pieces. And we don't even think about it. We don't even recognize it in our life. It's a quiet phenomena that is happening, which is why I'm bringing you this podcast today. Now, I want to make these special mentions because in the metaverse, as it's sorry, in the metaverse, as it's growing and shifting, games are no longer just games. I mentioned Fortnite earlier, and there are some interesting things that happen in Fortnite. So there's a singer, Travis Scott, and he's performed concerts in the metaverse in Fortnite. And even Star Wars premiered in the metaverse. So not only is this metaverse VR world, gaming world, shifting from being a sandbox or being a save the princess or whatever, the game had as a goal. Now it's gone from that to Second Life, where you're creating these avatars, to open sandbox. And open sandbox is just this expansive world that you can go in and investigate, to now you can go watch concerts, actual concerts that you pay for online through Fortnite. You can do that. I think GTA 6 came out, and it's a similar fashion where you're able to, you're able to purchase digital real estate. You're able to watch premieres of movies. You're able to watch concerts. It's now not just a game, it's a platform, and it's a whole virtual realm. Gamer girl. I'm not a gamer girl, but I've played a lot of video games. But I didn't really get too deep into it, but I have enough knowledge to know what to talk about. So, as we're looking at the timeline integration of the video game space, it's now like some of the key things we're looking at is it's altered our selfhood, how we define ourselves, our analog selves versus our digital selves. And I say selves because there's many avatars that you can have. It is pushing this boundary between human and machine, or the real and unreal. Like I said, our analog brain, like the cognition that our brain is capable of, it doesn't necessarily recognize the difference between being in the physical world and the digital world. I'll tell you that much right now. It's perceiving these things as both being very real to it. So, I purchased some like little add-ons to the Minecraft to make it a little more interesting for my son and I, because he's like, I'm just getting bored of, just going in and doing the normal create a world and whatever. And so I started buying these little add-ons to make it a little bit more interesting. Well, we bought this horror add-on called Cave Dweller, and it watches you, and it AI learns patterns. As long as it's watching you, it's learning patterns of what you're doing. So it's like monitoring you and then mimicking you, and then also it like will attack you. So when you hear it, it'll come on, and it'll have this heartbeat, almost like, Jaws has that na 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 na. So it has this like these two tones that really activate this fear response in you, because music is frequency and we are frequency beings. But when the cave dweller comes on and he's looking at you and watching you, there's a heartbeat. And so when you hear the heartbeat, you know that you're being watched. And so you're like looking around. So the first few times that I'm playing it, I hear the heartbeat and I'm like terrified. And then there's one time, like every time we see him or hear that heartbeat, we're like, oh my gosh, this is too scary. I'm running away. Or you try to figure out, like, how am I going to protect myself from this, this entity that's going to attack me and possibly kill me. And there was one time that I was playing, and he came and he actually attacked me in game. And mind you, this is not on, like, we're not metaversing. We have this open world. Maybe it's a little metaversy, but we're not playing with other characters. It's just us, and then this add-on, this horror add-on that we had on there. And I screamed bloody murder when he attacked me. I was terrified. And it you just respawn in the world. It wasn't like I was dead. But I'm saying this because even after that, like, I'm screaming bloody murder. Like, I was so scared. I could feel my nervous system reacting to to this like video game horror setting that we have on it. And my son is like laughing at me, and I just, my whole body, I was like, oh my gosh, like, ah. I didn't know what to do. Like, it was just terrifying. And I felt it affect my nervous system. So when I say that, that cave dweller that came and tried to attack me in a video game, or like if a real life bear came and tried to attack me in a video, or tried to attack me in real life, my nervous system is going to react the same way. And I just got scared. I screamed. I screamed bloody murder. Like, I don't think I've screamed like that ever. Like, I don't think I've ever, like, it's been very rare that I screamed, but it was terrifying, okay? So when I say that, it's like pushing this boundary of human and machine. Like, already our minds can come up with ideas of fear of being seen, fear of public speaking, fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, fear of, put it name, fill in the blank, right? And then to add this same thing, so if you're in a game that's like a lot of shooting and combat, like, you're almost putting yourself into this combat trauma when you're in that. I'm not too familiar with many of the games. Like I said, I don't play very many computer games, and so it's really restricted to console games and or like board games or anything like that. But you're really pushing this boundary here. And so it's a pretty interesting concept once you like really start thinking about that and considering like the reality of what is going on here. Whew. All right. Where are we at? 50 minutes? We're doing good. We're doing so good, you guys. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through all of my notes here. It's so much. Um, Maybe I will. I'd probably be on another 20 minutes. Okay. So now that I've kind of taken you through a timeline of the video game world and the virtual reality and the effects of the virtual reality, I am going to talk about some more just general topics of what's going on here. So I view technology, like digital technology, as this mimicry of the tech technology. Sorry, I think there's like ambulances. I don't know. That's kind of an odd sound, but I'm viewing technology, just digital technology, as a mimicry of the human technology that we're born with. So when I think about certain things of technology, like the just when the computer was came out, it was this mimicry of how our brains can compute. And so even something as simple as the calculator, when it came out and it's able to like do all these, fancy functions, that was revolutionary. And then, you got the scientific calculator. And then eventually when the computers came out, it was able to take all this data and compile it into usable information. But when that happened, the science world learned so much about the actual cognitive functions of the human brain. So, something that used to be thought of as a pseudoscience, and maybe a lot of people still consider psychology a pseudoscience, there's a lot of studies now in that neuroscience and psychology world that have been proven. And so you have all of these case studies that are really cementing that this digital, like the digital expansion that we're having in technology, is actually showing a lot about how our cognitive function is working. So, with that thought and perspective, when we are creating these virtual worlds, these virtual realities, I can't help but think that it is a support of the theory that I have that we have access to these other realms. And I don't necessarily think it's external. I think it's internal. And so there's this beautiful podcast called the Innerverse podcast. It's really wonderful if you're into cosmology and kind of into archetypal myth stories, and they dive a lot into biblical stories and just this, the history of the Sumerians and Mesopotamia and just all of these different realms of thought. And so the Innerverse is a beautiful podcast. But just saying the Innerverse, it was like, it tickles my brain. So I really like that. Jeff the Dude 777, hello. I really like that because I think that the Innerverse really is this untraveled realm. It really is it's instead of outer space, I think it's inner space. And so that's kind of a big wild theory that I have, but I think some other people hold that theory too. But, as we're looking at gaming and being able to transport ourselves into these other worlds through these digital tools, naturally, because of these other things that I've noticed just with technology and how it responds to our bodies, I'm thinking, well, why can't we do that and travel through portals of our inner worlds, through our mind or, our spirit or whatever that is? So that's a big reason why I even started my business and started Soulestic Intelligence podcast, is because I have this inner knowing and fascination and passion to discover what is that and how can I access it safely and not break my mind and not like crack my psyche while doing it. So modern gaming isn't just entertainment now. It's now an immersion. It's an immersion into these worlds, and it can be an escape into these worlds, and it's increasingly replacing our like analog world. I know a lot of people that will just come home, turn the game on, and then they're just gaming nonstop. I even watched a former coworker. Gosh, what was that called? So when Facebook came out in 2009, there was this. You could play these like level up games. So think Candy Crush, but there was one. It was like Mafia something, and it's a really popular format for like gaming on your phone or on your computer. It's like Candy Crush where you have to like pass a certain thing in order to get to the next level. So you're just like constantly leveling up, and then if you want to advance quicker, just pay this, $1.99 or $9.99 or whatever it is to like get extra whatever. And I remember my former coworker, he was an interesting guy, but he was always like in between sales calls. He was always playing this game called like Mafia Wars or something like that. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it was like mafia style, and you're like leveling up, and if people joined, then you got extra bonuses. So he was like, even if you don't play, just I need to get this whatever. And so you invite people into the world, you get a bonus. And so this structure is like, it's almost like gambling. It feels like it's got the same addiction style as gambling. But I remember like at work, he's just constantly playing this game. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. I don't even remember. I think it was like maybe 25 or something like that. And I was like, okay. I didn't even really want to join Facebook. And now I'm joining Facebook just so that you can, just so that you can get this, whatever. And so that was an interesting thing. But the massive world RPG, online RPG games. So think WoW, World of Warcraft, Elder Scrolls Online, Final Fantasy, other open world simulations like Minecraft, and we talked about GTA, Grand Theft Auto, and even The Sims. They're all these big sandbox universes, and so you can go and explore, and they're these. It's like this expansive digital realm. I remember when I think it was Morrowind or Elder Scrolls. I think Morrowind came out, and oh my gosh, what platform was it on? I think it was on Xbox or something like that. I don't know. I didn't really play a lot with Xbox. Anyways, I remember when that came out, and everyone was like, Oh my gosh, the world is huge. Like, it's going to take a long time to like navigate the whole world. And even still, like on Nintendo 64, when Ocarina of Time came out, the Zelda game, even that was this huge, expansive world. Like everyone was like, oh my gosh, their minds were blown. If you go back and play it, it's like, well, now it looks like really crappy, graphics. But back then, it was so novel. We were so excited to like go in and play this game. So it was a really interesting time. So to see from where it came from and kind of the expansion of it, we're looking at these big digital worlds, huge digital worlds that are very expansive. And now the players, the analog people that are playing these avatars, get to control those worlds. And they get to live these alternative lives. So, moving into VR, VR headsets, um, and you can even get these full motion rigs so that when you're in VR, it's not just these little hand consoles. Now you can operate with the whole body, and it it kind of merges this body into the digital space. And remember what I said about our minds. It doesn't recognize if something is virtual real or external real. It doesn't, it can't parse that out. It's a very complex and beautiful and intelligent design that our brains are, but the the fact of the matter is it's not going to recognize if virtual reality is different from, what we would perceive as reality. There's a zombie game in VR in a subway station. That's good. Like a video game you can play. So, um, your your body, your mind is actually transported and brought into this illusion. Yes. Oh, interesting. Well, you know about me, I'll probably scream playing that. But your mind starts believing that what is happening in that is real. Um, I don't know if round one is like everywhere, I don't know, but we have a round one here. And I went and I was playing this, I think it was like Jurassic Park VR game. So I have it on there, and um, I can feel my body has the sensations, even though, like, I know intellectually I'm not moving, I'm not doing any of that. But because of my mind seeing and perceiving the movement of flying through the air and like shooting up all these dinosaurs, or bugs or insects or whatever it was attacking us. I think there was a I think there was a Tyrannosaurus Rex. No, maybe not a T Rex. Maybe Velociraptor and T Rex. I don't know. But I was playing this like Jurassic Park game, and like I could feel like as it's like diving you down, you can like feel the sensation. It's like a little bit of um, just like butterflies in the stomach as you're like transported through this game, even though like I knew I was stationary, even though I knew I was sitting and I was holding on to this gun and I'm not like actually moving, but just the sensation of my perception was making me think that I was going through that. So your mind truly does believe that you're wherever you are. It does, like, it will have those sensations of this is a real situation. So what does gaming reveal about our desire for realms? Because I think we do have this really deep desire to know that there's something beyond ourself. And I think part of that is like really going inward and like having a really rich internal world experience. I caution people about seeking external validation to say, who am I? Somebody tell me who I am. Somebody tell me what I am. What am I? What am I? What am I? And like constantly looking outward when really truly the answer is inward. And I think we just have this really strong desire to know that. And so when we're playing in these digital realities, when we're playing in these virtual worlds, it's almost satisfying that that yearning we have to know that there's something more to our lives. So humanity has always mythologically looked at other realms. So one of the big ones is heaven and hell. People are very interested in, is there a heaven? Is there a hell? What does that mean? And there's a ton of discourse out there if you want to pursue it. I've done some of it, and I've kind of stepped beyond that. I'm not too interested in that anymore. I'm interested in just going there now, right? And then obviously we have these dream worlds. So anytime that we're in an REM sleep, it transports us into this dream world. And some of us are very lucid dreamers and others are not lucid dreamers. I happen to not be a very lucid dreamer, but in my waking life, I will have like dream-like visions where like I can actually I don't know if this is normal for people, but I'm just going to be very vulnerable and share it. Like, I have actual, like, waking dream visions where, as when I'm sleeping, I don't have those, like, intense visions. But in my waking state, it's almost like I'm in between the waking and the dream world. And like I'm kind of sitting in there and seeing these visions. Like, I don't know, it's kind of weird or hard to describe. So other realms are like astral planes. So some people can astral travel. I believe that that's possible, and I would would agree that it is a possibility. It's not weird. Okay, good. Sometimes I don't know, like I keep all this stuff to myself, and so sometimes I'm like, I don't know if people really want to hear about that, but it's true. Um, so you got astral planes that people astral project through. There's some research that's been done by the government to really explore that. Shamanic spiritual realms are another one, and then the Akashic records are other ones. Some people, specialize in doing Akashic readings, which is kind of going deep down into your ancestral roots and looking at some information that's there. And then, practitioners will help you to kind of transmute some generational or, I don't know if I believe in past lives. Like I was kind of talking about that in my past episode. I'm still kind of like trying to figure that out. As I am with a lot of other things, but the Akashic records are just your personal records, things that are standing out in your ancestral DNA timeline that pertain to maybe some of the behaviors or some of the thought process that you have. So VR is this modern mythology, and I I mean I may even go as far as saying like digital technology is also a kind of modern mythology made into this literal form that we can transport into these digital sandbox realms and experience like identities and different lives and I don't really want to call it parallel universing, but it's kind of like parallel universing, right? You're transporting your mind into some other realms. And while I haven't really been super deeply entrenched in it, I know that there's a lot of people out there that have been very deeply entrenched in it. So this VR is basically this tech rendered form of this deep subconscious urge to exit what we might perceive as a mundane life for something that's very mythic. And I don't do that necessarily with video games, but I'm doing it with my human technology, my body. And I think that we have, I just have this radical theory that we have this beautiful human technology that we haven't even tapped into, like, we've barely tapped the surface into what our bodies are capable of. What do you mean about augmented reality? So, as I mentioned in the beginning, I don't want to trash, absolutely do not want to trash on gaming, on virtual reality, on anything like that. I think that this really comes in and it hits hard because I think that there is this deep desire in humanity to connect in a way to this metaphysical travel being possible, and that the gaming world is like this way we can pre-template how is that going to work. So it's almost humanity's way, through gaming, to rehearse the metaphysical travel that is going to be needed in order for us to really truly tap into the possibilities of accessing our human technology. I hope this is landing. I think I'm talking about it really well, but okay, I have one more topic to talk about, and then we can talk a little bit about augmented reality, and I'll just wait for your reply. So, is realm visitation possible? And I'm going to say that the answer is yes. There, if you've been following kind of just these off topic or maybe kind of peculiar topics, there was something really popular that came out called the telepathy tapes, which I don't want to say that it was one of the main reasons, but I remember just being really activated by looking in a little deeper into the telepathy tapes, particularly because I had an ex-boyfriend that told me about it 20 years ago, 20 or so years ago. And so it was a very active and very activating moment for me. Um, and I talk about that. I think it's posted somewhere in my videos, but um, so from a human intelligence standpoint, we are already visiting other realms. So if you've ever been in REM sleep and dreaming, that is actually a visit to another realm, or maybe realms, plural. Um, REM consciousness is a form of this non-local awareness, this other realm that we don't necessarily access in our waking state, unless you're weird like me and you're like, you get so conked out on whatever you're thinking about, you're having like visions. Um, And then meditation is another way that we're already using our human intelligence to, travel to these different realms. Astral projection is another way. Some people use substances to have psychedelic states. So they'll use DMT or psilocybin or ayahuasca to travel to these different realms. Um, what do you call it when you dream something and it happens in real life? Is this a joke or are you really asking me? um, because that's just like prophetic dreaming, right? Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, if if you're if you're doing something that is happening in your dream state, and then it happens in real life, I would call that prophetic dreaming. Like you're dreaming about something that's going to happen. And then the other, and this is probably why I have my waking visions quite often, is there's a condition called flow state. And flow state is a scientific term, but a lot of people just use it. But it's where in art or dance or if you're like in an intense presence with yourself, that a lot of the times when I'm doing these, I'm like in a flow state. I'm not even really thinking about what I'm going to say. It just like flows out. It's just a natural flow of consciousness that I might not even really be, I don't want to say aware, but it's like I'm letting it flow through me. Like I'm letting the divine message flow through me. So a lot of the times with these long flows, especially if it gets after a certain hour, the flow state starts happening. So this can happen when you're doing an art project. It can happen when you're dancing. It could happen when you're talking. It could happen when you're singing. Sometimes, like if I go and I start singing, it'll like at a certain point, maybe after 3 songs, it's like, okay, now I'm in the zone and I'm not even thinking about it. I'm just performing whatever it is. So you get into this flow state, which is um, which is almost like being in this alternate realm. Okay. So, neuroplasticity plus imagination plus emotional encoding allow us to enter, remember, and revisit spaces that do not exist in the material world. I have found that the more relaxed my nervous system is, the more calm, the more rested, the more chill, the relaxed, um, no worry, no guilt, no shame. And I'm just sitting in this truly relaxed state is when I can access these things that I'm talking about even better. And I know this happens with people that are playing, because every time I play Minecraft, I kind of just like go into this altered state, altered mental state where, now everything is just flowing. I'm actually like immersed myself in the world. And so if you use that as an analogy for accessing these dream worlds, the Akashic records, the astral planes, um, the different, like a meditation state, if you're able to like relax your mind. I've been watching this show called His Dark Materials. It's on Max. I don't know if you guys have Max, but I have Max and Netflix. I kind of like Max a little bit more, but I've been watching this show called His Dark Materials. And I got it from I was asking, I don't know if I asked like AI or if I just asked the internet. doesn't even matter. It's all the same now, right? But I was like, what's like Harry Potter? It kind of has this like character arc, and I just want to find a new show to watch. So it recommended his Dark Materials. It's 3 seasons, and the reason why I'm bringing it up is the characters have to calm their mind to use their devices. So the girl, she has this device called an alethiometer, and it's like kind of a compassy looking thing, and she's able to to she has to like have no thoughts in her mind, just clear her mind, be in this really relaxed meditative state, and then she's able to interpret the alethiometer with 100% accuracy. And the same thing goes for the other character who has a knife, and he's able to cut into parallel worlds. So they're able to just kind of cut into these different worlds really quickly, and he can zip it up. And so it's an interesting thing because when I'm watching this, art imitates this like interesting innovative spirit that we have. Art imitates life. So, as I'm watching this, I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, this is very interesting to me, and I'm seeing these parallels of how being in that relaxed mind allows you to utilize tools that you have. So if we have a human technology or human intelligence, but a human technology, like to be in that relaxed mental state, to be in a relaxed nervous system, and to have like regulation of your emotions and regulation of like how your mind works, and really have control over it. Like, you can't control everything else, but you can definitely work on controlling yourself. And that doesn't mean to like push your feelings down. You got to feel the feelings. And I'm like one that needs to know that, just like everybody else. And I've just noticed that as I'm analyzing my system, I see that every time I'm relaxed, I have the meditative psychedelic vision experiences, or I'm able to see clearly, or even better yet, like have the burst of brilliance or this burst of genius where you're like, oh my gosh, okay, that answers the question that I've been pondering. So a lot of times I'm taking all this information and how am I going to solve the problem? And it gets answered when I actually calm my system down, when I'm able to calm the system. And I think a big part of that is like your prefrontal cortex, when in a survival state, just like your digestive system and some of the other systems in your body, it will like shut down to barely functioning. Whatever the lowest function it can do to get through the situation, it's going to do that. So even your breathing can like be very short because you're perceiving like, if I make a noise, then the predator is going to get me, is what your nervous system is saying. So in getting into a rest, digest, repair state, it really opens you up to the dream world. It opens you up to the astral planes. It opens you up to other spirit realms. It may even open you up to heaven. It could open you up to, which I think is possible. And then it can open you up to flow states where, your bursts of brilliance, your genius, the guidance, your decision making is clear. Like everything just becomes more clear. So that's what realm visitation is to me, and I think it is going to get expanded the more that I learn about it. But that is one of the ways that I have found that actually works, that can get you into that state that will give you this enhancement as an access to your human technology. All right. So, just some final thoughts here before I log off. But what if the metaverse is an unconscious ritual to externalize our inner dimensionality? What a beautiful thing to think about, right? What if the metaverse is just this unconscious ritual that we have to show us in an external way our own inner dimensionality, the things that we are capable of in an interdimensional space. Like we don't have to go to outer space, we just go inner space. Okay? I think the outer space is just this external representation of the possibilities that we have in an internal space. But you guys think about that. And then, what if games are these low res versions of soul travel? Okay? So, think about how amazing it is for people to play Fortnite and they're all engrossed in it. But if that is a low res version of what is really possible in soul travel, that's cool. And, with that thought process, we're only waking up now to the conscious navigation of realms. And that I'm getting chills. Like, this is the core, one of the core purposes. If I was going to write down like core purposes, this would be one of them, is how do I travel to other realms? How do I do it safely? How do I return to this realm or this dimension, my analog body, without like cracking my mind, without cracking my psyche? How do I do that? These are my deep thoughts. Now you guys know what's going on in this brain. So, gaming, and I'm not crapping on gaming. I think it's fun and I love like playing games. I'm not always in it, but when I do, it's just a nice rich experience. I do love feeling the escape. I love like when Breath of the Wild came out, I was so immersed in the game. And then when the second one I can't remember what it is. TOTW. When that one came out, like I was so excited. Or TOTK. But a lot of the times I didn't have time to pursue like all of the things that I wanted to do in that world. So I just didn't have the time. But I do love it. And I think that because of the excitement and adventure and the possibilities and this open invitation into discovering these new worlds, like to think that I'm an adventurer, I love traveling, to think that there's these other realms that we can go to beyond the dream realm, beyond like meditation, beyond flow state, and maybe even possibly like the gate, like going into heaven or going into these other realms that the Bible alludes to, but nobody really talks about. That's what excites me. So this gaming is not just an addiction that needs to be, you shouldn't play video games. It's an archetype. It's showing us, it's revealing to us this hunger for us to enter into these alternate worlds. I think that thinking that we have this static identity with seeing how people have reacted, myself included, to things like Second Life and, now Fortnite. I kind of make fun of it. I've never played it, but I've done the Fortnite dance, and my son and I joke about Fortnite. But there's this desire for us to have these other personalities and these other identities. And so there's always this drive to be static, be consistent, don't change your identity, be somebody identifiable. I think that's kind of this like old thinking that we really need to restructure and eventually will, when these new systems come up, including like us activating our human system, our human technology system. So, overall, one of my final things to say is the metaverse is not new. Even though it's new in this digital technology, it's not new. Like, this is something that we've been doing in our human experience for since we've been humans. Like, we've been able to have dreams, we've been able to, have flow state. And it's it's more so this ancient spiritual technology. Like I said, it's this human technology that we have always had. It's been there, it's available to us, and just because we might have a headset and the VR headset, it may be a way for us to train ourselves to see into these unseen realities. And for people that are unable to have lucid dreaming, like to be able to activate that and have those lucid dreams would be fascinating, right? So if somebody is not a lucid dreamer and then all of a sudden like the lucid dream turns on, it's almost like the blind person being able to see again, right? That's an ancient technology that we have in our systems here. Well, this was a long one. It was a fun one. It was a long one, but it was a fun one. And I hope I'm leaving you with some really interesting concepts to consider and to really find an appreciation for the digital technology. Because a lot of the times in these transmissions, I know that I'm like kind of tearing apart the digital age and like, just beware, beware. But it is a tool and it is a big revealer and it's an exciting one at that. And so, there is a lot of positive things that come from it. We just have to kind of shift our lens appropriately and see it from all angles. And so I'm not saying like, oh, AI is going to take over the world. I don't think that is the reason why. It is a reason why I started this series, because I was like, let me dive deeper into that. That sounds interesting. And the more I've explored and the more I've uncovered, the more I appreciate not just technology, the digital technology that we've been creating and the world as it's shifting, but it's also given me a deeper appreciation for our human technology that we have that I don't think gets enough credit and gets enough notice. So hopefully, you guys walk away with having a deeper appreciation for your body and for the mechanisms that it has just anciently ingrained into it. It's like bore into our DNA. Okay. Well, I am going to end this transmission. It's almost midnight here, so I will say adieu. I will be back at another time. I am Amelie with Soulestic Intelligence. This is the Digital Age podcast, and today's topic was gaming and virtual reality. Brick Finger, I'm glad to see you. I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you guys are interested in Soulestic Soul Maps, it's a comprehensive report that I've been doing. Just give me a message and I will tell you a little bit more about it. I think I did a video on it, so if you want to check out that video. But it helps support my stream and support the things that I do. Otherwise, please subscribe and like and comment on the channel so that it grows the people and the reach. And I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Take care and have happy 4th.